Here's a picture of the event. Here's a picture of the crowd. Now, the audience was the biggest ever, but this crowd was massive. Look how far back it goes. This crowd was massive. And I would actually take that camera and take your time if you want to know the truth.
And just before we leave, the president tells us he wants to show us just one more image.
But one thing this shows is how far over they go here. Look how far this is. This goes all the way down here, all the way down. Nobody sees that. You don't see that in the pictures. But when you look at this tremendous sea of love, I call it a sea of love, it's really something special that all these people traveled here from all parts of the country, maybe the world, but all parts of the country. Hard for them to get here. And they loved what I had to say.
Okay, so that video has absolutely nothing to do with what I came here to talk about. I just think it is hilarious how Trump will not shut up about the size of his inauguration crowd. I mean, it makes me laugh, and frankly, it's a little sad. But moving on from that, he's been in the presidency for about roughly 2 weeks, and he's already issued a slew of executive orders. I mean, he is doing just about everything he said he was going to do, all within the first 10 days, basically. You know, you have the pipelines, overturning of Dodd-Frank, you have the immigration ban. I mean, the list goes on. The wall. And just as an aside, I think it's pretty interesting how people now are so outraged that he banned the immigration from 7 countries and people with good visas and who are green card holders are getting deported. And they should be outraged. I like the protests. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when Obama was bombing those countries, killing many civilians, no one said much. There might have been some outrage from certain progressives, but for the most part the country was complacent, didn't really care. Maybe they didn't know. But there wasn't much there, and now that Trump's in office, everyone's out there protesting, and it's a big deal, as it should be. But that's just an interesting note to make. However, what Trump does is something that's almost unprecedented in modern history. What he does is he completely, blatantly, without even trying to, exposes all the corruption that is inherent in our government/economic system. Now, before I move on, we need to understand that the government and the economic elites of our world are 100% inseparable. And that's the way it's always been since the Neolithic Revolution, when we transformed into this type of economic organization. So in the past, the rulers of the society, they controlled all the wealth, kept most of it for themselves. The kings ran the ships. The British government had really close ties with the British East India Company, and you see it today with the multinational corporations and the banks. They're in bed with the politicians. This is the way it's always been. So you hear the type of things from progressives, and I don't put them down. They say we got to get money out of politics. That's what Wolfpack is with the Young Turks, and it's a good thought. However, in my view, and really this is the way I think it is inherently corrupt to the point where they've always been one. You can't separate them. The only way to separate them is to get rid of both of them and completely redesign the society. So that's a huge topic. I won't go into too much there, but you just need to understand that they've always been one. They have never really been separated throughout, like I said, post-Neolithic Revolution. But what Donald Trump does, and this is the point that I'm trying to make, is because he's so incompetent and this is just who he is, this is so natural to him, and he's really a child, he exposes the corruption, what we call corruption of our system. And really it's not corruption in the way we think about it. We think about it as a choice. This person's corrupt, this person's not. Really, at its core root, it is the dominant ethic that drives our society, which is competition, self-interest over the interest of others, self-preservation, gaining advantage, and Trump is the epitome of that. So in his incompetence, he's the president now, and he stays on as an executive director of The Apprentice. He has investment in the Dakota Access Pipeline, which he just approved to go ahead with building it. He just upped the fee to join his Mar-a-Lago club from $100,000 to $200,000. And of course, the obvious one, his entire campaign rhetoric was drain the swamp, at least at the end. Drain the swamp, drain the swamp. He did the exact opposite of it. He filled his cabinet with a bunch of billionaires, a bunch of people who are the top economic elites. And really, like I said, he's exposing what this system is. In the past, people have been slyer than he is. They've been able to get the people to go along with it. Obama's the perfect example. He led with the message change, change, change. People bought into it at first. But as a year, 2 years, 3 years went on, people started to realize that he was not what he said he was. He's for big business. He's for the banks. And they got tricked. Trump, he's not tricking anybody. He's showing them in the first 10 days exactly what he's going to do. But please, everyone realize this is the way it's always been. This is the way our entire system works. Now, I do understand that, at least as far as discrimination and immigration and that type of thing, he did take it farther than Obama did. However, know that the groundwork for Trump to come in and start exploiting these things and doing all the stuff he's doing, it was all laid by previous administrations. Basically, if Obama had come out and said, no, we're not bombing these countries, we're prosecuting war criminals, we're going to go after the people who did torture, we're going to not have Guantanamo Bay, then maybe a lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened. But the problem was he did. He did all that stuff, and it all comes back to business. We have allies in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and others, and we do business with them. We sell them arms, and they say they fight ISIS, but really what do? They carry out their own extremist agendas, and we allow them to do it because of business, because of economic elites. That's what they want. It's the oil companies, it's defense contractors, it's military industrial complex. It's all of that. It's all based off of the competitive ethic, the self-interest driven, I should say, self-preservation, gaining advantage. That is what is at the core of this. Donald Trump exposes that. So that's the one silver lining I can find in this presidency. And he's so incompetent and so childish that there are people behind the scenes who are influencing him greatly, aka Steve Bannon. He's probably the biggest one. More than anything, we have a fight on our hands because we handed over the republic to the most narcissistic, maniacal, incompetent man probably in America. And it's going to be a battle. It is going to be a battle, but we have to understand the root cause, where all this comes from. And once we can do that as a people, as a country, as a world, then we will be on the path to solving most of our major problems on the real.